he go? I can't see him anywhere. He's supposed to be here helping me. I gotta get packed. Pastor D, have you seen Sly? He's supposed to be helping me pack to go, and I can't find him.
Here he is.
Where were you hiding? You're supposed to be helping. You know you help me every week tell the story. Wait, what is that? You're sorry? Oh, it's okay. I'm not really mad. I just didn't want to leave you. You're my friend, and I don't know what we would do without you to help tell the story. So you just sit up there and make sure I do it all right. That would really help. But we got to get packed to go because we got to go on a really long trip. So what should we take? Probably need some water, right? Yeah, I got me a bottle of water. Put my water in my backpack. Let's see, what else do I need here? Oh, got to make sure I take my magnifying glass because I got to be able to see stuff up close when we're searching for stuff. So I'm going to put that in here. Oh, probably ought to have some clean clothes to take, don't you think? Yeah, I think so too. Let me get some clothes. All right, here's a shirt, tie-dye, of course. I love tie-dye. Got to have my tie-dye shirt in here. Let's put that in there. And probably ought to take some shoes. Let's see. We're going to Egypt, and I think Egypt's pretty hot, so maybe I should wear sandals. Yeah, I think so. Let me see. Oh, okay, here's a pair of sandals. Now, these are really nice looking sandals, so we can wear these to church. Gotta make sure we go to church. And then I can wear these sandals just for every day. Gotta have my different sandals. All right, get those in there. You know what I forgot? We gotta have some food. We can't go on a trip without food, and it's a long way away. So let's see, we gotta have something that's not gonna go bad. Oh, I got it. How about some potatoes? You like potatoes? Yeah, you can do a lot of stuff with potatoes. We'll put our potatoes in there. Put them in the bag. And let's see. Oh, chicharrones. Yes, I love chicharrones. Okay, all right. I think I got everything I need, and I think we'll be okay to go on our trip. Oh, hey kids, welcome back. Haven't seen you for a whole week. I'm glad you're here today, though, because we're starting a brand new story with someone who's really, really important in the Bible. His name is Abram. Now, I don't know if you know Abram or if you've ever heard Abram, but that's the name that his parents gave him. A few years later, when he was a lot older, God talked to him and God said, I'm going to change your name, and so you're probably familiar with Abraham. Well, in the story, though, that I'm going to tell you now, when we first hear about Abram in the Bible, he wasn't called Abraham, he was called Abram. So I'm going to be talking about Abram today. Now, Abram had a couple of brothers, and he had a wife, and his wife's name was Sarai. Now, you've probably heard of Sarah, because when God changed Abram's name to Abraham, he also changed Sarai's name to Sarah. But in our story, since we're at the beginning, we're going to talk about Abram and Sarai. Abram and Sarai lived over there kind of like where Israel is now. I don't know if you know where that is, but it was beautiful country, and they were really, Abram was really rich. He had all kinds of people that worked for him, and he had a big family, like nieces and nephews. He had a nephew that was named Lot. So Lot hung out with him, and he had all kinds of stuff. But after they had lived in this area that had all this beautiful grassland and all the pretty trees and all the flowers and plenty of water, it stopped raining. Now remember, God sent the rain for the first time in our story when we talked about Noah. And rain became very, very important because without rain, we can't grow food. We can't have trees that grow and make apples and pears and bananas. That's actually a plant, but that's okay. And we can't grow corn and all that kind of stuff. So if we don't have rain, that makes it a real problem. So none of the plants will grow. And if you don't have plants, then you can't feed the animals. And so then you don't have meat. So this was a real problem. And so Abram decided that he would have to go on a long trip, like I was packing for a while ago, and that he needed to take his whole family, and they were going to go to Egypt, because in Egypt they still had rain and they were still growing crops, and everything was really good down there, and he wanted to make sure his family could eat. That's kind of important. So he went to his wife, to Sarai, and said, hey, I think we need to move to Egypt. Well, Sarai didn't want to leave her family, but she also didn't want to starve. So she's like, Abram, that's a good idea. I think we should do that. And Abram said, Lot, I want you to go with me. I don't have any children of my own, so I really need a younger man to come help us out and to go with us. And so Abram and Sarai and Lot and all the people that worked for them, and it was a bunch, and all of Lot's family all packed up, and they went to Egypt. So all the grass was gone, the pretty trees were gone, and they decided to head down to Egypt. Now, in Egypt, though, they had a guy that was called Pharaoh. Now, Pharaoh is the name that they used for their kings in Egypt. They didn't call them kings. They called them pharaohs. So when I talk about Pharaoh, I'm talking about the king of Egypt, if you've ever heard of kings, which you probably have. So Abram went to the king of Egypt, and it was beautiful there. All kinds of gold statues and riches and all kinds of pretty things in his palace. And since it was like in the tropical region, it had palm trees and servants, which these were like people that worked for them. So he had all this cool stuff, and he had lots of food. But since Abram was from another country, he couldn't just show up at Egypt and say, hey man, can I live out on your place and make a farm and grow food and bring all of my family, which is a whole bunch of people, and all of my workers too. Well, he had to go to the king to get permission to do that. He couldn't just do that on his own. So he goes before Pharaoh. And Pharaoh was kind enough to say, yeah, I understand where you're from. There's no water and there's no plants, so they call that a famine. But we're doing just fine. You want to move in? That's great. And the other thing is, because remember I told you how pretty Sarai was? The princes of Egypt went to Pharaoh and said, hey, Abram's got this beautiful sister. See, Abram told a little bit of a lie, if you can call it a little lie. He didn't tell the truth. He told all these people in Egypt that his wife was actually his sister. And the reason he did it, he said, look, Sarai, you are gorgeous. You are absolutely beautiful. And if I go in there and I tell them I want to move in and I want to grow crops and I want to live in this area and I have all of this stuff and I have this beautiful wife, they're going to kill me so that they can take all my stuff and they can have you, because you are just so beautiful. And she was really beautiful. So much so that the princes of Egypt noticed her and went to Pharaoh and said, man, you have got to see this woman. She is gorgeous. And so Pharaoh said, hey, bring her over here. Maybe I'll make her my wife. He didn't know she was Abram's sister. Wife. He thought she was his sister, and so he's like, yeah, you let me have your sister. You can live wherever you want. We love to have you. We'll be family, man. It'd be great. So Sarah gets taken over to Pharaoh, and then all of a sudden, all of these terrible things start happening to Pharaoh and to Egypt, because God knew that Sarah wasn't the sister. She was Abram's wife. And that is a sin for somebody to take somebody else's wife. And God's like, no, you're not going to do that. I'm not going to approve of this. I'm not going to say it's okay. And so now all of a sudden this place that was beautiful with all of the trees and all of the food and plenty of water and all of the riches, all these bad things were happening. So Pharaoh comes in because he's like, something's wrong here. So Pharaoh calls Abram back. He's like, I found out there's a problem here, and all these bad things are happening because it turns out Sarai is not your sister, she's your wife. You've brought all these terrible things upon my country and me and my family because you lied. Well, Abram made excuses for his lie. He said, well, I thought you'd kill me if I told you she was my wife and you'd take her for yourself. So Pharaoh says, take your wife, take your family, get on out of here, because I'm not going to be sinning. I'm not doing this. And may God forgive me because I didn't know I was taking your wife. I thought it was your sister. This is not my fault. So God forgives Pharaoh, and Abram takes Sarai, his wife, back. Now, they lived for a really long time, but Abram and Sarai never had any children. So they go back to where they came from, and next week we're going to talk about what happens with the story when Abram talks to God about not having any children, and what God does for Abram, answering his prayer. So you come back and see me next week, and you'll find out more about the story about Abram, because there's a whole bunch of really neat stuff that happened with Abram, Sarai, and Lot. Love you guys. Come see me next week.